who've joined this panel. I guess it's the Luke Skywalker panel, which I love the name. For those who may not know me, I'm Rich Walter. I'm the Chief of Programs and Grant Making at Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, and I'm really delighted to host this panel. And I'm really excited about being joined by this incredible group of partners, community members, and friends. So what I'd love to start is if we could just sort of have everybody introduce themselves and what organization you represent, and then we'll get into some discussion. And I want to encourage the participants, if you do have questions, to pop them in the chat, and we'll go from there. So Cheryl, why don't you start us off? I don't know if everybody has it in the same order. I'll just call everyone out.
All right.
So Cheryl Jorczynski, start us off.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Jorczynski. I'm the founding executive director of Atlanta Israel Coalition. Thrilled to be here with y'all, and look forward to this chat. Okay, next.
Thank you. Yeah, Stephanie. Oh, I see. I'm confused. Not everybody who's on camera is one of our panelists. That's why. Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So thank you, Cheryl. That's all right. Allison, why don't you introduce yourself? We're all getting used to this new platform.
we're getting there. It's cool. Hi, everyone. Allison Padilla-Goodman. I'm the vice president of the Southern Division for ADL, Anti-Defamation League. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Randy.
I think Randy's not a panelist either.
Oh, Randy's also not a part. Rabbi Slomovitz, please.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay, okay. Albert Slomovitz, founder of the Jewish Christian Discovery Center, retired military chaplain, professor at KSU, and one of the few rabbis with 2 graduate degrees from a Jesuit college, Loyola University of Chicago. So I put all that military experience and academic experience and realized that there was a lot of work to do in educating Christians about their Jewish roots, which is the foundation of the Jewish Christian Discovery Center.
Thank you. And last but not least, Dov Wilker.
I'm Dov Wilker. I'm the director of American Jewish Committee, and Rabbi Slomovitz, I'm going to make sure that my Jewish friend who's director of alumni relations at Loyola knows about you.
There you go.
And if I could just ask, just to make things a little easier, both for me and our attendees, if you aren't one of our panelists, I'm delighted that you're here to participate, but if you could not leave, but turn off your camera. You can do it on the bottom of the screen. That way we don't have to, that's great. Thank you, I appreciate it. And again, we are not a full group. And although Sarah, I don't know that we can, there you are, terrific. Okay, it also is helpful, and I don't know how one leaves their name from the screen. I also want to be cognizant of those who need the interpreter, that they're able to see it and it's not as crowded a screen as much on top. But anyway, I'd love to start, and I think all of us are still reeling from the events of just a few weeks ago with what happened in Colleyville, Texas. I'd love to hear about how each of your organizations, reacted, responded, and what can we do as a community, not just to be better understanding of terrible tragedies like this, but to be more proactive in helping to prevent them and being prepared. Allison, I think it's natural that we start with you, so
Sure.
please.
Sure. So, the events in Colleyville, Texas, what was ADL's role? I mean, this is why we have regional offices and why we have people on the ground everywhere. We were immediately on the scene. We have a strong relationship with Rabbi Charlie and his synagogue. We're in communication with his family, both in Dallas and in Michigan, kind of giving them updates, working with the FBI and local law enforcement. As soon as Afia Siddiqui's name was uttered, we immediately kind of highlighted a backgrounder we had on her from over 10 years ago. This is issues that we've been kind of dealing with. And then we kind of once the crisis was over and we saw the great outcome, and we had done a bunch of security trainings with Rabbi Charlie over the years and other synagogues in the area to kind of prepare them for exactly these kinds of situations. We then hosted Rabbi Charlie and FBI Director Christopher Wray in conversation on a kind of national platform. It was the first time they had gotten to connect with one another personally. It was a really kind of powerful moment. There's a recording of it on our website. Locally, I should say, me with Neil Rabinovitz, we immediately started reaching out to local law enforcement. Neil communicated quickly to all the synagogues. We kind of pulled some local pieces together. ADL and SCAN together hosted a national security briefing with Jewish institutional leaders, and we kind of made sure that Atlanta was well represented there. What can we learn and do about it? I mean, the incidents in Colleyville is kind of another reminder of the impact of like conspiracy theories that are so rooted in anti-Semitism. And so, there's the immediate need for security and institutional trainings, which we're working on. But then there's also the like constant like whack on the head of the reminder of like the need for education around anti-Semitism. The hostage taker, he thought that the Jews had the power to make change in his situation. He wanted to reach out to Rabbi Bucknell in New York because he knew that, he saw a picture of her with Obama. It is like anti-Semitism at its core. And so kind of constant reminder of the need for education, for conversation, and then the sad part about the need for kind of training and increased security measures. And we're working with the FBI and local law enforcement to make sure that any alerts and threats are taken really seriously.
Great, thank you. I'd love to follow that with a question for Rabbi Slomovitz. A lot of your work is with the non-Jewish community, and how can that outreach and that engagement, where can we be more intentional about building those bridges and through education and other means to help, be proactive and address some of the things that Allison just raised?
Well, I must tell you that my whole life it's been in this world of interfaith. Imagine in the military, there was only a handful of rabbis. Out of 1,000 Navy chaplains, there were 10 rabbis. And so wherever we went, we were unusual, and people ended up all the time asking us questions about Judaism. And then, as I said, I attended Loyola University. I spent a lot of time in churches, and I don't think the Jewish community is aware of how little the Christian community understands about Judaism, honestly. Just starting at that basic on-the-ground level. And part of that, of course, is that most Jews have not read the Christian scriptures and understand the Christian scriptures. But those are the books where Matthew, in the book of Matthew, the Jewish community says they betray Jesus, and they say, his blood be upon us and upon our children. Okay, well, we could dismiss that as hyperbole or the author, whatever. But if you're sitting in a church and you're hearing that, and by the way, I've written a book based on the book of Matthew. It's a commentary to the book of Matthew to show our Christian friends all the Jewish connections. And the book of John is much worse. So I don't think we honestly have an inkling of what the need is out there. Because if we only react when something bad happens, then we sort of miss 99% of what preceded that. A quick example, my group, the Jewish Christian Discovery Center, did a survey among 300 adults. And we asked them a number of questions, but two questions were, what religion was Jesus and what religion were his parents, Joseph and Mary? Now, you would think that would be a duck kind of question, but 30 to 40% of the adults got it wrong. They didn't know he's Jewish. And so I just want to give an example of how far we have to go. And so what my group is doing is we have a project for Hanukkah, and I think, Dov, somehow our emails got crossed up one day. But we give these little packets out of a Jewish star, some dreidels, a little postcard of explanation, and literally say, put this on your tree, because Jesus was Jewish. He celebrated Hanukkah. There were no Christmases. And when you say that to kids, as I've done, they look at me like I'm crazy. What do you mean he wasn't Jewish? What do you mean he wasn't Christian? What do you mean he didn't celebrate Christmas? So we really are in many ways. Don't forget this 2,000 years old. So this is nothing new. So we are facing this massive tidal wave of people simply not knowing all the connections we have.
Thank you. So pivoting, Dove, I think the work of AJC is also, not just about building bridges to other communities of faith, but specifically, from a political action standpoint. And, I'd love to hear a little bit about not just specific to Colleyville, but in this work, how important it is that we create those relationships and political advocacy, especially, as we combat, all of the challenges that we've been talking about tonight.
There's just so many directions to go with this. I know that we've all had our own experiences, but I would say, even in response to Colleyville, I was at the Capitol the Monday following the incident, and I met a high-ranking Republican official from rural Georgia, and I was introduced to him, and we made some sort of comment about what happened, and he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so we have this assumption that, of course, everybody knows what's going on, but the truth is that they don't know what's going on. We in the Jewish community are aware of what's going on, so we have a responsibility to work with elected officials, across the aisle to ensure that they are aware. And Allison pointed it, made a great comment, right? Like, this is the stereotypical Jewish conspiracy theory, right? The man goes to the synagogue and wants to get in touch with Angela Buckdahl because she's been photographed with Obama. Like, he believes that Jews control the world. And we have a responsibility to educate on, these issues and to inform and to not assume that they know. I mean, even, what Rabbi Slomovitz just said about the 40% not knowing that, Jesus and his parents were Jewish. I mean, unfortunately, that doesn't surprise me. According to our survey, only 2/3 of Americans have met a Jewish person before. And if you live in the South, which we all do, we know that number is probably higher. It's probably closer to 40 to 50%, depending on where you are, even in metro Atlanta. And all you have to do is see the incident of the public school district in Eastern Tennessee banning the
somebody just posted about that in the chat yesterday. Yeah, that happened yesterday.
Yeah, happened yesterday. And they, and the school board's response was, well, we're not trying to diminish the Holocaust. We just wanted to find a different book. Well, I think we have to open our eyes a little bit about what's actually going on here and the responsibility that we have about the tools that we have at our disposal. And I will say that even in metro Atlanta, where you would assume that the elected officials would have, and religious leaders and ethnic leaders, I mean, I don't know about you, Allison. I didn't get too many phone calls from the non-Jewish community after Colleyville. Like, I got a few, but I didn't get as many. And look, thankfully, it was a positive outcome that no Jews were murdered, and the response would have absolutely been different. And I think that's also something that we have to deal with. Is Dara Horn wrote the book, The World Loves Dead Jews, and so we have a responsibility to inform them that Jews are the number one target of religious-based hate crimes in the United States, and that there's a lot that they can do to lead and to educate and to be aware and to inform their constituencies. So, the political world is as much a part of this as the ethnic, religious, and business communities are too.
Absolutely. And so, Cheryl, I turn to you last because obviously a lot of what we see in terms of anti-Semitism is a blurred line between anti-Israel, sentiments, of course, the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement and its powerful engine. Not just a problem overseas, it's something that hits our own communities as well. And I certainly it was wrapped up in a lot of what we saw happen in Colleyville as well. So I'd love to hear your perspective and how your organization or just in general, we need to be more attuned to that blurring of lines. Where do we allow for the legitimate criticism of Israel when we disagree with it versus how do we make sure that criticism doesn't turn into, BDS and anti-Semitism?
For me, it's pretty clear. You can criticize the government of Israel all day long, just like you can criticize the United States government all day long, and that doesn't make you anti-American or anti-Israel or anti-Zionist. But the moment you're starting in about from the river to the sea, which means wipe out Israel from the river to the sea, or spreading blood libels and misinformation, you may just not know, and you know, that's our job to spread that information and educate people. Or you may actually be clearly just full of anti-Semitism. And it's difficult because people say, oh, well, it could be, it might not be, anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, we're not sure. We truly believe if you think that the Jews have no right to live in their indigenous homeland, that's anti-Semitism. And the definition for us for Zionism is the right for Jews to live in our indigenous homeland. Now, that's not saying that we want to displace others. That doesn't say that we want to spread hate, but we do believe that Israel has a right to exist. And the moment you say it doesn't, well, then there's really no conversation to be had.
Thank you. I'm curious how your organizations, complement each other, work together. Obviously, we're all dealing in a similar, space in terms of, combating hate, combating anti-Semitism, fighting for justice and creating bridges. I'm curious what's been the experience. I think our audience would probably be interested in hearing ways that you've worked together. What are maybe some opportunities that you haven't explored? And I'll open it up. Whoever wants to jump in.
I'd love to jump in.
Yeah, Cheryl, please.
Well, we had our rallies, and I believe the majority of organizations here did at least put their name on it. We just did the Shine a Light on Anti-Semitism with End Jew Hatred movement. And again, we were all working together. I think, that's the whole goal of AIC is Atlanta Israel Coalition, to get people out of those silos, to bring everyone together, to unite. And I love working with, sorry, I'm going to say y'all, but I do. I love working with y'all. And I hope that we'll be able to do more down the road because, for me, Israel is not a political topic. It's not a divisive topic. It's a human topic. And we need to have these conversations, especially as Jews. We have to be able to support each other and we don't always have to agree, but we need to respect each other, and to exclude people because of their either Zionist or anti-Zionist views, to me is just, it's what hope do we have? I mean, really, what hope do we have? We have to work together.
I'll jump in. I'm looking at Dove. I probably am on a Zoom meeting with Dove once a week, or in a coffee date or something. We work very closely together and do a lot of collaborating. And I think as a Jewish community in Atlanta, we have seen many, I think, huge successes over the past several years. I think the Shine a Light that Cheryl just mentioned is one of them. We had a couple of really great community programs where lots and lots of Jewish organizations came together with different perspectives to kind of come together. I think one of the strongest kind of unifying moments for us was the program we did at the Sandy Springs Center after the Muncie murders in Brooklyn, or in New York. I think that was just a really powerful and really positive way for us to kind of join forces and understand that we're stronger together. Today, we had 5 organizations at the Capitol in recognition of the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it was really powerful to see the landscape of Holocaust education kind of providers and supporters in the city and how rich our tapestry is. So I do think there's a lot a lot of headway we've made. And to your point, Rich, I think there's a lot more that we can do coming up.
And
Absolutely.
And I will add,
please.
I think that we are better than most cities. I think that it often goes overlooked, but the relationships and partnerships and collaborations that we have are really an example to the country in a way that, understands the uniqueness of each organization, but also the ability for us to collaborate and work together and achieve success. And I'll point to, you know, ADL's leadership on the coalition to pass hate crimes. I mean, that was a tremendous example of, you know, bringing our community together and showing that, you know, it's not just the Jewish community, but there are other organizations and communities that can be involved in these issues that we should, you know, bring to be a part of us as well.
Excellent. So the last, question that I would ask for our panelists is just to share a little bit about, a couple things. One is, obviously, this is a panel focused on anti-Semitism and hate as part of a night on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So how does this, not just fit in, but how do we help you, not use, but how do we rally others to the importance of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion as it relates specifically to anti-Semitism? I think it's really a challenge oftentimes because we're not necessarily seen in the same vein as other forms of racism and hatred. So I'm curious in your closing thoughts about that, and just maybe what are some moving forward action steps that we can take as a community overall. I'll start with you, Rabbi Slomovitz, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
No, not at all. I was thinking as people were talking, I think the main thing we have to do is sit together and recognize where we are and what we have to do. If there's 100 steps, I'd say we're at the very beginning, steps 2 and 3 in addressing this. We all know with the internet that things are better and worse at the same time. And there's so much misinformation out there. My organization, for example, is working on a video directed toward teenagers about anti-Semitism. So I think primarily what we need to do is recognize what we're dealing with. And I go back to a point I made a few minutes ago. I don't think we really recognize that, how much misinformation and ignorance there is. And I know that from the questions people have asked me. So we're all in this. And by the way, the racism against Jews, I always relate it to a little vial of poison. Once you open that vial, it's going to blow around. It's going to get people of color. It's going to be different sexual orientations, whatever it is. So that famous philosophy by Reverend Niemöller of World War II, that the minute the prejudice begins, it's our turn eventually. It may be somebody else's turn first, but the prejudice will come to us. So this really is working on making America and the world a world where you love your neighbors yourself and people are treated equally with dignity. Without that, it's kind of frightening, because Jews, remember, in our history used to worry about our physical security. Were we going to be okay physically? Was somebody going to come to our house or our synagogue? And the local police, they might protect you, they might not. We're not there, but I think we need to know where we came from. So we have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thanks. Allison?
I really appreciate this question. It's something I have really strong feelings about. I think it is very apropos that the Jewish community is hosting a JEDI Night. I think anyone who thinks that anti-Semitism lives in a vacuum is fooling themselves. Anti-Semitism, sure, is perhaps the oldest and most deep form of hatred, but it tends to come with every form of hatred we see. And we can see this in the data. We can see this in the actions. I mean, looking at the FBI hate crimes data, year after year, without fail, by far, race-motivated hate crimes is the highest category of hate crimes. And year after year, without fail, African Americans are the largest target of hate crimes by far. Second is the Jews. I mean, it's a far second, but it's second. And so I think, we're really like all in this together. And, what does that mean for us and where we go? I think I've heard a couple of references to what happened in Tennessee yesterday, what happened in Athens today. I think education.
There's a note in the chat about the confirmation of Deborah Lipstaff, for example.
Yeah, but I think education is really ground zero right now. And I think we should all be very concerned about the state of education in our state, the state of education in our country. and what is being taught to students, and how, and what is being banned from being taught to students, because we are at a point where issues of diversity and identity and equity are not open into schools, and there's major pushback here that I think can have serious repercussions for the Jewish community.
Just another important reminder how important it is that we vote and take action in those areas. So thank you for that. Dove, and then we'll conclude with Cheryl.
I think I think we have to work on continuing to educate our community about what these terms mean. You hear the phrase, diversity, equity, inclusion on a daily basis, or at least I know that I do. But I think that most people still, and adding the Jewish side of it, the justice, I'm not sure actually how familiar our community is. And my guess is that the people who use it probably don't even know what the words truly mean. And I think it's a huge missed opportunity in our community for what we hope to achieve. If we just assume that people understand, then we are absolutely going to make mistakes. Not to mention that nearly 50% of the community probably doesn't believe and this is a worthwhile concept to be spending time on. So if we need to, continue, I think we need to have a focus on continuing to educate our community, recognizing that we are often seen, as Jews who go to a funny church. And I think that's an important reminder for us as Jews, particularly in the South. And we also need to remember what are domestic issues and what are global issues. And while they are connected and related, they are also different. And the answer to one is not necessarily the answer to the other. But I think that hosting tonight's program is a tremendous first step for the community to be able to truly, appreciate and understand the direction that we are all working towards.
Thank you. And Cheryl.
So I think, we're wonderful as a community coming together, unfortunately, reactive when there are problems. Our goal is to try to unite proactively and create a ripple effect. It's not enough just to educate, in my mind. We need to get people who come in not truly understanding, different topics of the day. So it's not a echo chamber; it's a ripple effect. And if we can share that on a consistent basis through programming, education, we go into schools. We partner up with everybody and anybody and have those courageous conversations, because it's easier just to say, oh, no, you disagree with me, I'm not going to talk to you, than to put yourself out there and really get involved. I think, if everybody who's watching this got involved and, went to one of Allison Dove's programs, went to one of our programs, went to a federation program, got more active, we could do so much more together. We really, really can, by being proactive and consistently trying to unite. So that's what it's about for us. And being that today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we're having a program right after this on Clubhouse, shameless plug, right? With Sammy Segman, who was at the UN for the signing of the official recognition, and he's also a Holocaust survivor. So the programming just should never stop, really, and getting others involved from all backgrounds, and showing that we are diverse people. Also, it's Jews don't look one way. We don't behave one particular way. We're all different, and that's a beautiful thing. It really is. So, thank you.
Rich, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you to all.
Can I end with a happy
I don't
story?
actually. They're waiting for me on the main stage,
Okay.
So we got to try to wrap up.
I have
but I want to thank you. Pop in the chat, Rabbi, when we get back to the main stage. So I want to invite everybody back to the main stage. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank those who joined this session. As it's been said, I hope this is the beginning of this and not not the end. So we'll see everybody back on the main stage.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Thanks.